Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou e Whakarongo mai nei ki tēnei o ngā hōtaka o Koniahi Kōrero. Ki runga i tō tātou nei taonga o te maunga nei, o te korimako o Taranaki. Iwa te kauma wā tā waru te iarere ki uta, iwa te kauma waru tā wā te iarere ki tai, ana ko Te Aorangi tēnei, e me I kauatu ki koutou katoa, koutou rā kua hono mai I a pukamata, ana kei te mātakitaki mai I tēnei o ngā pāpā o mataara. O tira, tērā pia ko hono mai e tehi atu I te iHeart Radio, I te whare kōrero rānei, ai, kei te mihi mata kui ki koutou katoa I tēnei rā. Nā, ko koutou e mātakitaki mai nei kei te kite koutou ko wai kei takutaa. Aira, kei te tika koutou, ko Warren Nicol tēnei e noho ana ki takutaha. Nā reira, ka tuku te rākau ki koe e Warren, mau e wakamo'o atu ki te katoa ko wai koe noa hea aua āhuatanga katoa. Nā reira e hoa kei a koe te wā.
Tēnā koe kati. Te me tuatai ke te mii kia koutou rā I raro o tātou maunga. Tēnā hoki tātou o tātou aitua I tēnei wā. Mai te kuia I takoto I te kopu o te wenua I tēnei rā. Mai taipore he nui. Me te kuia I takoto mai ki muri raupatu I tēnei wā. Moi mai rā. Ka huri au kia koutou, tēnei te mii kia koutou katoa I raro o tātou maunga. Nō reira, ko waiau, he uri ahau no Ngāti Ruanui Ngāruahine tana ki tūturu. Ko Aotea te waka, ko Wainonoro te awa, ko Arukuku tahapu, ko Ngārongo ke te marae te pā. Ko Mauriri taku tupuna, nō reira ko Warren Nicholls ahau. E kai wakeri te taku mai I roto o te hauora o Ngāruahine. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou.
Tēnā koe te whanaunga aira, ana e mihi ana hoki ki rātou mākua wehe atu ki te pō. Nā ki ngā whānau e no o pani I tēnei wā hoki, koinei ngā mihi aroha ki koutou e noho ana, e noho mohoao me ki o koutou nei kainga. Ana e mihi ana ki koutou ngā kaimahi o tēnei kaupapa o tātou, o te tonga nei o Ngāruahine rangi, a huge mihi going out to you all at this time. Warren, those of you who are doing the hard yards for the whole of Taranaki at this point in time, Ngāruahine Iwi Authority Health Services. I don't know what else to say, to be honest. We watched you all last year, put in the hard yards for our people. We've seen it replicate again this year, and it has been heartening to watch, but also very like, oh my gosh, I hope they're okay out there, because we know that this strand this time around, the Delta strand, is so much more infectious than the last strand that we dealt with. So while, yes, we were very vigilant last time round, this time round it has been even more like, oh my gosh, are these people like, I think they're made of titanium. They just keep on going and going and going. And it's just been, I'm so proud is what I would say, is I'm just so proud to have watched the mahi and support the mahi that you all do as well. Heoi anō. I could go on for hours, and we haven't got hours. So let's get into it. Let's cut to the chase, Kazi?
Aira.
So thank you also for finding the time, because I know you have just come from that tangi for our kui out at Taiporo Nui, and I know that you've come back to a huge amount of work. So thank you for finding the time to talk to everybody tonight, because e te whānau, what we are going to talk about is really important to us. So we're going to start off first, though, talking about the pop-up vaccination clinics that Ngāruahine Iwi Authority have been running in conjunction with Te Korowai o Ngāruahine rangi. And kaore te kumara e kōrero mo tōna reka. He oi anō. I was at I have been to one of those clinics so far, and, you know, I mean, we're not looking for success in a sense, but we're looking for our people to feel like they have somewhere where they can go. And I was just so happy to witness that out at Tawhatinui Pā, and to see actually the amount of young people who were coming through. Can you tell us about it? Tell us about it all, Kaz.
Kia ora mō tina. Wakawuta ki a koe mo tō mii ki a mātou. Mātou kaimai katoa o Ngāruahine. He kaupapa tuatai. He hapaitea te ora o nā tangata. He hapai te ora o Ngāruahine. Nō reira, tēnei te mii e kati. You know, for us, it's quite simple. He mama noiho. For Ngāruahine, it's about engagement with our people, reaching our people, and it is quite simply, our marae are the best place to start. Our papa kainga. Let's create the environment that is most comfortable to us as Māori, as Ngāruahine. And so our marae pop-ups were all about creating the environment, the vision to have a safe, comfortable, and actually fun place to have vaccinations. And to share kōrero, whanaungatanga, all the wonderful stuff that goes on beyond just receiving the vaccination, the jab. Yes, that's a crucial part of it, and that's our drive. But, you know, one of the things for this narara is we have many whānau feeling isolated. Many activities of our normal being have been put on hold. This allows us to still re-engage in some of that as well. And so it's less about the vaccination and more about how we piripiri mai, waka piripiri mai i a tātou, mo te kaupapa, mo te kōrero, mo te maramatanga. And that, I think, is the success factor, the win, so to speak. Every number we get vaccinated is a bonus. But to deliver a service that is for our people, by our people, in a meaningful Ngāruahine way, that is the success factor. So it's been a really enjoyable journey for our team. It has been just so humbling to put our marae at the forefront, to have them not just as a place of tangi for us, but as a normal place of being for all our kaupapa, including this one. So, you know, I have to mihi out to all our marae trustees across the Ngāruahine landscape, all our uri who got behind and saw this as a positive and totally endorsed us bringing this kaupapa to our marae and opening the doors for uri to return home and have that safe place to come kōrero and ideally have the vaccination.
Yeah, you've just hit it. You really have just hit it, because we, like you said, it's more than the vaccination. So, you know, I was just talking with Renee about this earlier, you know, in regards to, you know, like saying to her, what do you think, you know, because go to her for everything. What do you think about our messaging and everything? And she said, you know, like, when she had her tamariki, it was about tēnā ranga tiratanga, and I'm not going to do so. I'm not vaccinating my children. And, you know, I was a bit like that too, because we'd had some issues with the vaccinations. But this time it's 100% about everybody else and not ourselves. And we, you know, like for us, we didn't even know what's in it. Like, I don't know what's in it. And I didn't even think about that. But when I took Pairo down to First of all, I could take him to Tawhiti Nui Marae. Boom, there you go. I couldn't make it to Aotearoa, but I could make it to Tawhiti Nui. No brainer. Of course I'm going to go there, you know. And to see everyone there on that day was just like, oh, it's a social occasion in a sense, you know, like, oh, you know, where everyone's keeping there, doing the right thing, but just it's a collective movement. You're all doing it for the collective, not yourself. The plus was that, yes, we got a kai. Okay, awesome. That was awesome. And we got the vaccination. Was probably kind of like the last thing on the mind at the end of it, because everything else had taken place. So has that been the feedback that you're getting from, you know, many of our people who are coming to these clinics?
Yes, absolutely on point. You know, again, it's not so much the vaccination as the bonus. I think we just invite our whānau to return and have a conversation. It's about understanding the vaccination. You know, we have heard so many different messages. There is so much information that often we don't even consider or understand because it's in language that's just not meaningful to us. So our first point is, whānau, hoki mai ki te kōrero. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk through in a really grassroots, at-home manner and understand what this is about. That is crucial before we even think about vaccinating. And it is about using the right language. It's about how we engage. We're at home. It's with kai. It's wānanga. It's all the principles of our Ngāruahinetanga at play. So how can we not embrace that and use that as our method of supporting whānau? So many whānau have come, even unsure whether they want the vaccination. Kei te pai. So we've sat, you know, one thing we're good at, time doesn't count. So the conversations can occur without worrying about, oops, I got to exit the doctor's room in 10 minutes. Oops, I have to go into a waiting room with 20 other people I don't know. I can't talk about this stuff. So our marae clinics allow us to just kōrero. That is a normal thing for us. Kānoi ki te kānoi. And it's about breaking down the right information so understanding comes. From that, once we have maramatanga, we can move forward with decisions. We can't decide and make good choices without understanding. So for me, there is some real kōrero that goes down that's really simple and really gets what people need to understand. You know, it's things like, what is this vaccine? You know, unlike other vaccines, you raised a good point, Te Aorangi. Previous vaccines, childhood vaccines, they're all injecting a virus in us or a bug in us or a live piece of that into us. It's a foreign matter in terms of our tinana. The one thing I say that is absolutely brilliant about this vaccine is it's none of that. It is a strand, a little piece of our DNA called mRNA. But it's the recipe piece of our DNA to create the army of fighters, our toa, within our tinana, our natural army. Our body builds them itself because all it's getting in this vaccine is the recipe. It's like the cookbook. You can't bake a cake without a recipe. And some of us advanced ones might not need a recipe anymore, but we could never learn to cook without that recipe, even if it was from our kuia via, you know, via kōrero that was still a recipe. So today, in this environment, this vaccine is giving our body the recipe. It lets our tinana know how to build our own army of warriors. They're called antibodies. They're the fighters of any bug, the virus. But these particular ones that are built are designed to particularly focus on this virus, this COVID virus or coronavirus. The other really good thing is they're specifically, once they're activated, they target the lungs. This marae, it's real. And we all have heard that it sits at the back of our nasal passage above our throat. When we swab for testing, we swab to that place because that's where this bug likes to sit. But from that very top of our throat, it has a direct line through our airway to our lungs. And it loves the lungs because that's moist, warm, great breeding point, great place for it to multiply. That is why people get very sick with it and end up in hospital, in ICU, very unwell, on a ventilator. So that's the stuff that this virus, this vaccine prevents because it's targeting the lungs. This marae doesn't get to the lungs because as soon as we come into contact with it when we've been vaccinated, our army of fighters are stood to attention and are marching out. Our natural immunity kicks in and those fighters go directly to the lung, and any little part of that bug that finds its way down that throat are basically attacked. And I'm sorry, we do that with no mercy.
Yeah.
And everything has a life force. But that marae is destroyed by our own army that we have built from our own tinana. That's really important to understand. It's not another virus being put on us that's foreign to us that's doing the fighting. It's the fighters that we create in our own tinana. And that's a really crucial point to understand because a lot of uncertainty about vaccination for COVID is thinking we're getting something foreign and something that is not keeping us whole. And we worry about that balance of our tinana and all our dimensions of being. So with our natural immunity, our natural fighters, they can fight this bug straight away. So when we're vaccinated and we come into contact with COVID, we're less likely to get it. But if we do, we will only get that minor sore throat and a few little flu symptoms because it deals with it. It attacks it, destroys it, and our lungs are protected. So we're not going to get as sick as unvaccinated people. We're not going to end up in places like ICU. And we're, most importantly, are not going to have the deaths of the past, of the 1918 flu epidemic, that we all have mass graves under our maunga across our landscape. And just within Ngāruahine, we have many of our urupa that have those places. We have many kainga, papa kainga, old papa kainga. They might not be lived on now, but we had whānau who were buried immediately outside the house, whether that be out through the window or just outside the whare. We have those tūpapaku lying, those kōiwi are with us forever as reminders. This is our chance to not repeat that history. But it's also our chance to allow our natural tinana to create and own this and fight it in its own way. Does that make sense, Te Aorangi?
Yeah, it's almost like it's an enabler in a sense. Once it gets in, once you're vaccinated, it starts to work. It starts
Absolutely.
to wake everything up that's already naturally within you to do its job. I think I sort
of articulate this to back in the pre-colonized times or through the early colonized times when we had the horrible atrocities that occurred, or the, you know, and our, particularly pre-colonization when we had intertribal warfare. You know, our taua stood ready. And even as the constabulary came through post-colonization, our rangatira had their taua ready. As soon as they were activated, they protected the whenua. They protected our people. I see that this vaccine allows us to reenact that within our own tinana. Our taua are standing ready. If we get the nārara, it activates us, and our rangatiratanga as an individual kicks in, and our taua go to work.
Yes. Oh, now there you go. That right there. There you go. E te whānau. Koutou e whakarongo mai nei ki tēnei o ngā uiui, ki Wainganui a Māua ko Warren. That is a perfect analogy. And I listened into Deb and Rawiri and Dr. Rawiri Jensen the other night, and he made a really good point that this is not an indigenous Māwiwitanga. This is coming from a foreign place. We don't naturally have that enabler within us. It has to be put into us. Because we don't know how to fight something that is foreign to us. And we've seen this before, whānau. Every single one of us would have had somebody who died from influenza. Rene also talked to me about the fact that one of our koros, you know, he had to become the leader of his whānau well before his time because our whole whānau died. And he was stuck not stuck, but, you know, he was put in a position to have to do something when he wasn't quite ready for that. And we have to think about that right now, especially with our rangatai and our taioi. Listening into the kōrero in regards to them too, and how, you know, we have to take care of them. We have to take care of them, especially like for me, two of my children are not old enough to be vaccinated. And so right now I'm like, oh, well, not just anyone can rock up to my home because I have two tamariki here who don't have that line of defense yet. They're not quite old enough. I'm the line of defense. My husband and I are the line of defense in my home. We stop that from coming in. That's our job. And as a whānau, that's our job. The adult's job is to stop that for our mokopuna as well. And it's actually something that we can do without it really impeding on us, you know. I was double dosed like way back, I think May, June. I think, by the end of June or middle of July, I was already ready. I mean, I did experience a very sore arm. Very sore arm after the second dose. See, after the first dose, I had nothing. So I was like, nah, I'll be fine. But the second dose, definitely. Very sore arm, and I did feel sick. I felt crook, but I knew what was going on. So it was like, hey, I got through with that. Kei te paio, now I feel like I've done the best thing that I can for my kids and my mokopuna. Is that the sort of kōrero too that you're able to have with everybody?
It's really important to touch on that. And, you know, like with any vaccination, any injection, there's going to be pain certainly at the site of the injection. So we will have a sore arm for both first and second dose. It's like we get a wood splinter. We feel it. Anything that penetrates our skin, we feel. So yes, without a doubt, we will feel it because that's just how our bodies respond to anything that breaks through the skin. It's really common for people to feel a little bit tired afterwards. And when you think about what our tinana is starting to do with that recipe, it is building an army. So if our bodies are busy working, building an army, why would we not feel tired? When we're, as a people, on a kaupapa, tirelessly working hard for a kaupapa, we feel tired. Our tinana is the same. When it's working on this kaupapa, building the army, you know, rest is important. That's what allows our body to prepare itself. And so do expect to feel more fatigued, to feel like you want to be a little bit more tired and a little bit more sleepy maybe. That should only last a day or two. Some people have had a very slight headache, generally not more than a night or two. But again, often that's our body, it's working hard, it's building its army. These little wee symptoms are not a side effect of this foreign matter. They're a symptom, they're a sign that our tinana is working hard to create its fighters. And so we have to think of it a little bit differently. The analogies that tauiwi medicine gives us, just, we don't comprehend them. They're foreign. It's foreign language. We have to think of it from our tinana, from our hinenaro, from our I'm not sure.
It's like getting fit. It's just not going to be pleasurable or nice in the beginning.
Exactly.
You know,
right.
Like some of us, we might get out for that run and it's a little bit uncomfy, but you know, we get through it, and I could expect that. Some of us, it's going to lay us out for a week. Let's be fair. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since we partook. And so now, you know, because I think if I had this 10 years ago, I wouldn't have got the sore arm second time round, because I would have been fit. I would have been healthy, you know. This time round, a little bit on the sluggish side, you know, not in top condition like I have been in the past. But yeah, I think we have to accept that some of us are going to, it's going to affect us more once we have it, but we will get through it. I think that's the key thing. We can get through this, and carry on.
No, so on point. And you know, sometimes the symptoms are worse for the second dose, because it's like we've built the initial army, but now we need a whole platoon. We need a whole, you know, it's enhancing it tenfold. It's building even more of an army. So of course, we're putting more and more energy and effort from our tinana into that construction. Still only from that one little bit of recipe, but it's after that second dose we get the complete fighting ability. So, you know, in a nutshell, that's how I like to articulate it. You know, like, I think the other really important thing to understand is this Delta variation is so different to the previous. Last year, our responses were all really concerned for particularly our kaumātua pāhake, our karaua kuia. We saw them as the most vulnerable. What we're seeing with this Delta variant is it's largely, a large proportion are under 30. Our young, our taioi. And we often think as taioi that we are resilient to everything, that we are able to overcome and be in control of everything, and that we're sort of, anything can be thrown at us and we'll be able to overcome it. We're invincible, that's the word. But actually, for this Delta variant, our under 30-year-olds are getting targeted more and more. And probably at least, near 70% of all cases are under the age of 30, where they're unvaccinated. So it has to be for us as a iwi, how do we engage and kōrero with our taioi to say, you're our future. He rangatira moa popo. We need you. Our mokopuna, our future mokopuna need you, because we're not here forever.
Is it right? Oh, sorry.
No, kōrero mai.
Is it right that it's not necessarily that they're more contagious or anything like that? It's just that with our taioi and our rangatai, sometimes I'm still a rangatai. I'm referred to as a rangatai. So what I'm saying is, whānau, the age here, we're not talking just, our young teens. We're talking right up, the 30-year-olds and maybe a little bit further on, because we're still playing team sports. We're still going out to the bars. Well, not me, clearly, but, those of you lucky people with a social life are still going out, congregating in big groups. We're going to the concerts. We're going to the big rugby games. We're going to all of those things where everybody is. And it's more like that, right? It's more because we are more, it's a relationship thing. It's relational.
They're way more mobile than we ever were.
Yeah.
So more connected, so more across the communities. Yeah, we've got to play outside. We got to do our thing, but it was only up the street and around the neighbourhood. And when the lights turned on, we all came home. Our rangatahi venture way further than we ever did. And you absolutely are right. They are in collective groups. They are doing a range of activity that just exposes them way more than the rest of us. And by default, they become more at risk. But imagine as a young person, if you're building your army at that young age. Imagine if your army within your tinana is built strongly, your foundation. We have whare that have been standing for some very long times. I think of in our own backyard at Arakuku, and we look at, like Kumea.
Yes.
It's well over 130, 140 years old, way more, even over 150 years old. Because it had a strong foundation. Never a nail in it. But it still stands strong. Because when it was young, it was built strong. So we need to use the same analogy for us when we're thinking of our rangatahi, our taioi, in terms of this as a core component of keeping them strong, a strong foundation, building their army young. Because this will give them protection beyond just the coronavirus. This will give them protection for all sorts of lung things. It will lessen the likelihood that they get respiratory infections, influenza infections. They'll be better off from it. They can do all the fun things in their life way longer. Be more active. Be more engaged. They will be our leaders of tomorrow.
Absolutely. I feel like I'm getting preached right now. I'm feeling like this is one huge karakia going down, and I'm so happy I'm a part of it. But you're right. You don't actually hear many people talking about the fact that it will support in other ways. Everyone is concentrating solely on COVID-19 Delta strain, actually. But this is going to have an effect. And it's kind of like anything, I guess. And this is my own opinion, e te whānau. I'm not a medical professional, but I'm just thinking, past experience, tupuna, kōrero, all of that sort of stuff. And, of course, using sport as my analogy. Eventually, people are going to drop off the team. right?
Oh,
Some of your platoon's going to drop off. You might need to bolster up again. So
no.
eventually, maybe, I don't know, but maybe there may be a booster that comes in too to replace those older fellas or ladies who needed a rest, and they've gone on to do other jobs within the taua, and now
Aye.
in come the rangatahi again. In come the ones with the more energy, our younger ones. They come in, boom, they load up again, and they strengthen the platoon. But you still got that those old heads in there, leading, guiding the way. I think that is such a good
Tika
way of
tau.
explaining it, Kaz.
Ana.
Such a good way.
And you were absolutely right again. You know, when we think of our normal well-being as a tangata, you know, we're born into this world, we live our life, and we all eventually pass. Over those years, our bodies slowly, over time, start to lose the kaha, lose the inner workings. Our organs, our tinana starts to wear down. It deteriorates over time. And there's no magic medicine out there to change that. But if we nourish it, if we have the right army within our tinana, we will flourish for a much longer time, and we will put off that end result. We do have to replenish. Your analogy is so perfect in terms of our sports codes. I think of our tribal rugby and league teams. You know, they come together so actively. So many young people, but we need to, and we keep bolstering them as our kamariki come through the ranks. We keep bolstering the teams. Like you say, we get a bit older, we can't get on that field as much. Or we're so committed to winning that tribal shield that we want those young ones there because they're a bit more fitter and active, and they're going to get those tries. So you're absolutely
you still
right.
want to play Kari? Sorry, you're too old.
Oh, totally. First aider on the sideline here.
Ones in.
But, you know, that is such a great way. Yeah, absolutely. That is such a great way for our rangatahi to understand it, that it is about continually bringing leadership through, bolstering the army, staying strong, being the best, having the best tinana, our natural tinana.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is such good kōrero, Warren. Thank you so much for that. So there you go, e te whānau. You're part of a team. This is a team effort right now, and everyone has a job. Everything has a job. And this wero, the vaccination, this wero that you're about to think about to take on, is going to bolster your own personal team within yourself, actually. And that is going to, I'm getting a little bit hoha with this whole freedom kōrero though, and, you know, because I think, man, my tupuna, we're talking about oppression now. I'm sorry, but you cannot talk about oppression in this day and age when we think about where we are because of what's happened, you know, because of oppression. I mean, I think we need, that's a whole other kōrero. But what's your thoughts on that too? I don't want it to get too thing, but, you know?
No, but it's something we have to kōrero over, and it's something we shouldn't be afraid of challenging ourselves on. What I think about is our collectivism. If we're pono to us as whānau hapu iwi, if we're pono to kaupapa-driven direction as a people, collective effort is where it's at. None of our marae were ever about individualism. None of our papa kainga were ever about individualism. And if we look at our Kōrero, if we look at our history, we all had roles to play, and there were varying roles, but it was the collective effort. It was the outcome. It was the succession that was at the forefront. And we were pono to kaupapa, not for other reasons of selfish gain. And
yes, that's right.
And I really see vaccination in this COVID environment as a collective effort. Yes, it gives us an individual protection with our own little army, but it does protect our whakapapa. It does protect our haputanga. It does protect our iwitanga. It allows us to continue in the responsibilities and roles that we all hold at various times across that landscape. It allows those things to continue mai anō. Our leaders of tomorrow, our mokopuna yet to come, we need to be enabling them to continue to have access to their I suppose, what would be a kupu? To the heritage. Yes, to te ao, but to the heritage as Māori, to the heritage as hapu, as whānau. We're not just denying, when we make a choice not to vaccinate under the COVID vaccination, we're not just choosing to push ourselves out and take a risk. We're putting our collective whānau hapu iwi at risk, because it is absolutely very clear, without any doubt, this Delta variant, and there might be other worse variants to come yet, that they will take hold on unvaccinated and they will be spread absolutely to others. Why do we want to put others of our whānau, of our hapu, of our iwi at risk? We should be thinking about, we talk about korowai aroha, korowai manaki. To me, this is an extension of that. We should be wrapping our whānau with our korowai to protect, to keep safe.
Yeah, definitely.
To nourish.
It's kind of like, say there's 100 people, we're going with this 100 people thing at the moment. There's 100 of us inside, 95 of us are vaccinated, 5 aren't. Okay, there's 5 people who aren't, but we're all still at risk. At least 1/3 of us who are vaccinated are still at risk, because, they say that it's like 70% nothing will ever happen. But there's like, I don't know, a round figure of so many where you might get the flu, you might get something. So you're still at risk, because those 5 people will be the ones who catch it, and they will catch it, and they will catch it bad. And then they will have an effect on the other grouping of people who are also susceptible, not as susceptible because they have the vaccine, so they're probably just going to get crook but they're not going to end up in hospital, and they are more than likely not going to die. So that's for that grouping of people, and the rest of us, we're not going to get sick, we're not going to end up in hospital, and we're definitely not going to die. So that's another thing that I think people probably have to be aware of, is that there is definitely a grouping of people who will receive the vaccination who they will get sick, because there'll be other things that were already going on for them. However, had they not got vaccinated, they will die. And I'm just going to say it straight like that, whānau.
That's the reality.
This is how serious this is.
I think the challenge for us, moving forward with our responsibilities that many of us carry, particularly for our marae and for our hapu, is what does that mean for us moving forward? And sitting on the pai the last 2 days with our whānau at Koutu, at Taipore Nui, we've had some great conversations, great wānanga in terms of what this means for us moving forward. And everybody within the whare was conscious of who was coming in that gate. So much so that there was a kōrero. That does our future look like that your vaccination card allows you to enter, but actually without it, you speak from the ātia. What is the world for us moving forward if we're not going to have a collective, kaupapa-driven method of how we maintain our manaakitanga, maintain our responsibilities, our roles? We will still need to manaaki whānau for hui, for kaupapa like mate. But we also have a responsibility to protect one another. And so these things are going to become very real. And we need to be conscious of some of these things in our decision making as a collective, but also as individuals. And when we make a choice not to vaccinate, we also need to be conscious of the other choices we're making along with that. And we might be sacrificing being able to participate, being able to be connected, or being able to access certain things, because the risk to everyone else far outweighs the risk to yourself.
So you hit it. You hit it.
It's
100% hit it. I think that's probably the biggest. You know, Dad died last year. We had just gone into level 2 on that very day. We moved into level 3 on the day that we buried him. We had to, you know, this is our whānau I'm talking about. I mean, we're no different to anyone else, but, you know, like there's hundreds of us. Dad was loved like other people's parents were, and you know, everybody. It was the hardest thing for us to do in level 2. I mean, then our whanaunga went on and had to do this in level 4. And we had to make those decisions. And we even, at one stage, to keep ourselves occupied, we even, like, Te Wihi and them came up with, what about if it turns out that you've got like a drive-by tangihana going on, you know? And then we enacted it. Them driving around, luckily we have like a roundabout here, driving around the roundabout, starting the tau parapara from up the top and then getting to the door where, you know, of the room, and then getting to say your last little bit, and maybe there's a kuia in the back, kei te waiata hoki here, you know, like we were kind of making fun. But actually, this is an absolute reality. I mean, one of the iwi just up, I can't remember where, Arohatu, but they literally all stood at their driveways as the tūpapaku was driven past, and that was as much as they could do. I mean, yeah, to not vaccinate, you're making your own choice, because the choices are clear. The choices are clear on safety, on defence, where you stand in the line of defence. And for me, I feel like I've put myself in the front row of the defence. In hockey, I'd be a forward. Not really. I've always been a back. But in hockey, I would be the forward. And it's funny because Dinah King keeps coming to my mind because she's a goalie. And she'd be at the back. And I can tell you now, if it gets down to her and goes through all of us, she's going to be peeved off at the rest of us for not doing our job at the front and letting it get all the way back there for no good, especially if it's for no good reason other than you made that choice to not be part of the collective.
And so, you know, as a people, we've never been about individualism. And not to be wakaiti to anybody, but we were kaupapa driven. We were a collective. We had a shared vision. We had a shared view of the world. how do we reorientate our hininaro to that space? How do we reorientate ourselves to the whānau hapu iwi being? Because we're nothing without the collective. It's a collective strength in anything we do, whether that be a sport, whether that be mahi at the pā, paid mahi in work. It's collective effort that gets us through.
Absolutely. 100% e te whānau. Okay, we've got a few more minutes and we've got a few more things to cover, Warren. So we've covered the reason for the clinics and the success. We've covered the vaccinations, the reasons as to why and what's in it, and how this helps, not even the getting the vaccination, actually just more about some education that has been missing. We have been missing this kōrero right here, Warren. We have been missing this. So thank you again so much for talking to me. Now, also, we have another clinic today coming up, Friday, the 8th of October, e te whānau, Waiokura, right? So can you tell us a bit about that?
So yeah, we're nearly through the end of our first round of our marae pop-ups, and we've spread them across the landscape of Ngāruahine so that our whānau have good access, easy access, close to home, and where possible, on our predominant marae. We all whakapapa across many, if not all, but let's be real, some of us have our predominant that we're most active at. So we've tried to be really good at spreading across our landscape for that reason. But yes, we've got Waiokura tomorrow. It's 9:30 till 2:30 every time, regardless where we are. One of the issues for us, I think, thus far is things like these national booking schedules. They're just too complicated, just too hard. First of all, you've got to have the technology, and then, or the internet access, and then you've got to try and navigate it. Give it up. It's just too hard. So, for us, keep it simple. Just rock up, just turn up. No need to book, you're at home. When have we ever told people to book to come back to their marae?
So
keep
true.
It simple, keep it real. Come home, have a kōrero. And while you're here, be nourished. Kōrero over kai. Have the conversation, have the whanaungatanga. We've tried to make that as nice and as fun as possible. Te Kurawai and ourselves have been lifting the game a little bit. We've had a coffee cart at everyone. One of our own uri, Ange Kirihoma, rocking up with her coffee cart. A variety of options available. But it's about manaakitanga. He kai o te kōrero. We're more relaxed, we're more just enjoying company when we do that over kai and coffee. Mm-hmm. And we don't want a whole lot of ringawera in the kitchen to miss out on the kōrero. So we've made sure we've used these, been creative and done something a little bit different to spoil us all. So we're all enjoying the kaupapa.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, beautiful.
So, it's been really good. Next week, we're at Rangatapu, next Thursday, the 14th. That's the last of our first round. And then we'll be restarting a second round with Tuesday, the 26th of October at Aotea. Tawati Nui is on Monday, the 1st of November. Ngāruahine will be again on the 11th of November, followed up by another one at Waiokura on the 19th of November, which is a Friday. and then finishing at Rangatapu on Thursday, the 25th of November. But again, we will have those posted up regularly. We put them on our Facebook pages. We share that far and wide. Encourage others to just rock up. No booking needed. If you do wish to book, there's a number on the post to call Ivy, who's our booking person. And you can call her on 027 200 9882. 027 200 9882. And she'll take care of it all for you. You won't even need to worry about it. It is helpful to know if people are coming, just so we know vaccine numbers, but it's not essential. So, rock up, have the conversation, enjoy the wanaungatanga, and let's just enjoy being at the pā, being whānau, being hapu, being iwi.
Yeah, that's the one. What about testing? Kazi?
So we've been doing the nasal swab testing for COVID since last year, since we entered into this horrible environment. For us, it's really a core component of our everyday life. We need to ensure our whānau are safe. The only way to know is to test. So whether people have travelled, whether they're mawiwi, contact us any day of the week, Monday to Friday. We won't hesitate. We'll drop, we'll come. We like to test in bubbles. Bring the service to you, bring it to your kainga. Again, it's about protection. Rather than you travel out and potentially spread, we'll come to you, test, really quick, really simple. It's not pleasant. It will make your eyes water, but it's really, really quick. And it will be nothing worse than that.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I've been tested a few times, actually.
Yeah, yes, I think you have. But yeah, testing's a key strategy. We've got to, wherever possible, keep that testing going. And if by any chance we ever get a positive within Aorangi, it then gives us the ability to deal with that really quickly to prevent it spreading. If it's unknown, that's when we're more at risk. So for us,
guess what I would add to this. Oh, sorry.
No, kōrero mai.
Haere tonu.
So yeah, it's not just about. Oh, aroha mai.
Truly, kei a koe.
The tikanga of Zui is not always good, is it? For us, it's not one or the other. They go hand in hand. We can't just vaccinate and not test. And we can't just test and not vaccinate.
Yeah. And the testing is going to be so crucial, like you just said. It is going to be so crucial, just so we know where it is. E te whānau. I had no problems last year if I travelled outside of the rohe, come back, knew I had to get tested, even though it wasn't the done thing as such, but it was something I was going to make happen. And, I did it and I knew there was always a possibility that I could have it. I would hope that there wasn't, but we didn't know much about it. And I wasn't going to feel stigmatized by that either. I think that would be my my personal advice to everyone right now is that any one of us can get it, whānau. Those of us who are vaccinated, obviously it's going to be harder for it to penetrate the team. But anybody, I would not be saying feel stigmatized by this. Don't not get the test because you're worried about whether you've got it. Get the test. Definitely get tested. Even though I'm vaccinated, if I feel crook, I'm still going to be getting the test because I'm not taking any chances for my mokopuna and my kids. I'm the adult. I've got to make the adult decisions. So, Warren, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Ngāruahine has got a vaccination clinic at Wai o Kura. Winks Road, Manaia, 9:30 a.m. until 2 p.m, 8th of October, e te whānau. Please, like Warren said, who tells people they can't go to their marae? They got to book first. No one, especially not down here in Ngāruahine, that's for sure. We know what everyone's going to be saying to that. You're joking, mate. So please, everybody, the opportunity is there. Can they get tested there too, Warren, or are you going to do that?
We'll have a conversation about anything.
Okay.
Anything, it doesn't have to be COVID related. Somebody might just have a concern about something. Hara mai ki te kōrero.
Ka pai.
So yeah, but definitely in the COVID space, we're testing. We've got testing gear already available every time. Vaccination gear. Yeah, bringing the service to the people.
Ready to go. Nā reira, te whānau kei te mihi ki koutou katoa kua whakarongo mai ki tēnei o ngā uiui, ki wainganui māua ko Warren i tēnei o ngā rā. He oi anō ki koe hoki e kas mo te whaiwā, ki te noho tahi, tuatahi ki au, engari ki te katoa hoki o te maunga e wakarongo mai nei ki enei o ngā kōrero e mihi kau atu ki koe. O tira ki koutou katoa e ngā mei matakuikui ki koutou katoa kua whakarongo mai nei. Ko māua ko Warren tēnei e mei ana ki koutou. Hei ko nei, hei ko nā, e te iwi, tūrau Hawaii.